We live in a time where it's exceptionally difficult to separate fact from fiction. How many times have you heard the term fake news used in the last few years? At this point, it's difficult to determine what's even true. But conspiracy theories are nothing new, although recent events and prominent public figures, which we don't need to mention by name, have thrust some theories from the fringes of society into the mainstream. You're probably familiar with a lot of the more common conspiracy theories which have been written about for years before finding a new audience on the internet. You got the JFK assassination, which has been stirring up controversy and debate for more than half a century. Then there was the moon landing and all the folks who say we never actually stepped foot on the lunar surface. More recently, we've seen the rise of polarizing conspiracy theories surrounding events like the 2020 election and the COVID pandemic. It seems like just about any major event gets the conspiracy theory treatment these days. A quick Google search comes up with literally millions of pages pertaining to secret societies, reptilian alien races, UFO sightings, and covert government cover-ups. Now, we're not in the business of investigating or debunking any of these subjects. There are plenty of other channels to do that. But there are some conspiracy theories with startling ties to Hollywood stars and popular musicians that we just can't ignore. So get your tinfoil hats ready, because these are the most shocking celebrity conspiracy theories of all time. Avril Lavigne died and was replaced by an actress. Apparently, the real Avril succumbed to depression back in 2003 and took her own life. Her label wasn't ready to accept the fact they'd lost one of their biggest stars, not to mention moneymakers, and replaced her with a body double named Melissa. Previous incarnations of the theory even speculate she was swapped out with some kind of clone. It's believed the theory originated on a Brazilian fan page in 2005. What's their proof, you might ask? Well, proponents of the theory point out that before 2003, Lavigne preferred to wear pants on the red carpet, but this new imposter supposedly prefers to wear dresses and skirts. Believers also point to her facial features, suggesting they've changed somewhat since 2003. They also say Melissa has hidden clues about her true identity embedded in the lyrics of her songs. In the song Slipped Away, for example, the pop rocker sings the lyric, "The day you slipped away was the day I found it won't be the same." While that piece of evidence might be a stretch, there was a time that Lavigne had actually written the name Melissa on her hand for a publicity shoot. So who knows? Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to Trender if you haven't already. And don't go anywhere. We've still got a ton of conspiracies to cover. Paul is dead. There seems to be a whole category of celebrity conspiracy theories claiming that a star passed away and was secretly replaced with a doppelganger. Probably the most famous case of this phenomenon was the whole Paul is dead legend that took root in 1969. After the Beatles released Abbey Road, fans discovered a myriad of supposed clues that they believed proved Paul McCartney had been replaced by a lookalike. People were convinced that John Lennon could be heard saying, "I buried Paul" in Strawberry Fields Forever. But John says he was really just saying the words cranberry sauce. Reportedly, there are hundreds of other clues hidden throughout the band's discography. And to this day, the Paul is dead community is still thoroughly convinced the Liverpool native isn't who he says he is. Stevie Wonder isn't really blind. Little baby Stevie Wonder was born 6 weeks premature in 1950. Back then, doctors didn't know yet that the highly oxygenated environment inside of a newborn incubator could actually cause a great deal of damage to the human eye. Stevie ended up suffering the consequences of that ignorance by living the rest of his life blind. Or did he? Some skeptics have attempted to cast doubt on that narrative over the years. One notable proponent of the Stevie can see theory, sports writer Bomani Jones, has pointed to the fact that the songwriter repeatedly makes use of visual imagery throughout his songs as proof that his blindness is just a ruse. He also claims the musician prefers to sit courtside at NBA games to, quote, get a better view. And he also tries to correlate his childhood reputation as a prankster as further proof of his otherwise preposterous claims. There is one video where Stevie can be seen catching a mic stand mid-fall, which you'd think would be difficult for a blind man to do. And then there's the testimony of the late NBA star Daryl Dawkins, who also claimed the musical legend could actually see. J.K. Rowling is actually an actress. Norwegian filmmaker Nina Grunfeld has a very novel pet theory about British author J.K. Rowling, the creator of the Harry Potter franchise. Grunfeld doesn't see her as an inspirational rags-to-riches story as many do. Rather, she remains skeptical she was able to write 6 long books that got published into 55 different languages and sold more than 250 copies in less than a decade. Her theory is that the J.K. Rowling that we are familiar with is an actress hired to be the face of a franchise that was secretly conjured up by a team of professionals with the purpose of creating a multimedia cash cow empire. Lorde is lying about her age. According to Wikipedia, Ella Maria Lani Yelich O'Connor, who you might know as Lorde, was supposedly born November 6, 1996. But maybe that's just what they want you to think. If it's really true, why does she sometimes look like she's in her late 30s? Then there was the time she told Vanity Fair she was, quote, actually 45. Granted, she might have been just being funny. But on the other hand, maybe she was coming clean with the truth. Then there was a time she said the virgin suicide really resonated with her when she was a teenager. She then nervously corrected herself by saying that she was still a teenager. And that movie came out in 1999, so you do the math. Bob Dylan ripped off Blowin' in the Wind from a New Jersey high school student. Did Bob Dylan really write Blowin' in the Wind? The answer, my friend, is no if you buy into this particularly obscure conspiracy theory. Depending on the version of the theory you subscribe to, Dylan either bought or outright stole the song off of a New Jersey high school student named Lori Wyatt. Believers point to a 1962 performance where Wyatt's high school band performed the song at a school dance. He told the school newspaper he had written the song, and then when Dylan released the song a year later, on his second album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, it sure looked like the folk star had committed theft. In 1974, however, Wyatt wrote an article admitting he found the lyrics and music to the song published in a 1962 issue of the folk magazine Broadside and tried to pass it off as his own. Decades later, though, people still cling to the idea that Bob Dylan plagiarized the tune, and everything that indicates otherwise is just a cover-up. Nicki Minaj is just Jay-Z slowed down. Onika Tanja Mirage, aka Nicki Minaj, has a slew of nicknames and alter egos, but according to one conspiracy floating around the interwebs, her entire persona is fake. As the story goes, Nicki is just an actress lip-syncing to slowed down Jay-Z vocals. The proof? There are hundreds of YouTube videos out there that slow down Nicki Minaj songs so that viewers can observe how much she sounds like Jay-Z. On the flip side of the coin, allegedly, if you speed up Jay-Z's lyrics, he sounds like Nicki. Michael Jackson faked his own death. Don't buy into all those pictures of Jackson laid out dead on a gurney. All of them were faked to convince the world he had passed away. But in fact, he's alive and well, according to some conspiracy theorists. This one actually has a great deal of compelling evidence worth taking a look at. For one thing, there are conflicting details in the official autopsy report that don't seem to add up with the rest of the story. Then there's a weird video of what looks like Michael jumping out of a coroner's van and being escorted into a hospital by a security guard. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Believers of this theory claim to have mountains of video evidence proving that the late king of pop faked his death to escape the limelight and allow his family to reap the financial rewards of his death. The smoking gun, according to believers, is a guest calling himself Dave that went on Larry King just a few months after Jackson's death, who bears a striking resemblance to the pop star. They even have the same voice. Anyway, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think Michael Jackson really is still alive, or do you think that's a bit of a stretch? What's your other favorite celebrity conspiracy theory? Let us know in the comments below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Trender if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.